Dear students, and from the entire T.I.M.E team, on behalf of all the students of T.I.M.E who are here preparing and they're aspiring to go to the top B schools of the country, and the entire team of T.I.M.E who has been pretty supportive, and they have played an important role in the entire journey of these students. I am very, very honored to have Mr. Rajiv Kabra on board today, having a special interaction on a very special and a typical, I would say it's a quintessential question, but a question which is very difficult to answer. And the question is, why an MBA? So that is actually our topic. But before we begin, just a little introduction of Rajiv Kabra sir. So Rajiv Kabra sir has done he's an engineer, and after his engineering, he joined, I guess that was Tata Motors, sir.
That is right.
And for a year or two, you
for
were
a
in
couple
Tata
of years, yeah. 2 years.
Yes, for 2 years in Tata Motors. And post that, I.M. Calcutta was his destination. And I.M. Calcutta, he had this wonderful 2 years MBA journey in I.M. Calcutta. Again, a prestigious institution, most of you long for. Following that, I guess sir got a beautiful chance to be in USA, IBM, if I remember that truly correctly.
Yeah.
And sir, for how long have you been in US?
I was in US for close to about 8 or 9 years, and then I kind of moved back in 2009, and then I came back with IBM here, and then for last 10 years I've been running my own company, my own entrepreneur.
Yes, and that is Cognitive, yeah, based out of Gurgaon, and he is the CEO and founder of Cognitive. So when we talk about a person like Mr. Rajiv Kabra, he is actually a man who's been there and done that. He's been an engineer, been to the top engineering college of the country, that's BITS, and top management college of the country, I.M. Calcutta. And then we talk about going to all the top companies like IBM, Tata Motors. He's been there. And again, come back with most of your dreams, like most of you dream about, and you talk about entrepreneurship. And he is CEO and founder of Cognitive, which is an online educating, they're online into online education, right, sir?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. So अगर मैंने कुछ इधर उधर थोड़ा सा छोड़ दिया हो, so please you can you can very well continue from here, sir. And it's actually a true pleasure because after having an interaction with you yesterday, it was and being a teacher, I'm actually thinking from the students' point of view, there'll be so much to learn from you. So students, I would want you to please be attentive throughout, have a lot of questions, because you would have those questions and that would help you in your statement of purpose, whichever you'll be writing. Along with that, when this toughest question, जिसे कहते हैं हिंदी में हम लोग बोलते हैं यक्ष प्रश्न, तो जब ये यक्ष प्रश्न आपके सामने आएगा कि why an MBA, आप definitely अपने answers इसमें create करोगे, but through sir you'll get an insight about how to answer such questions, right, sir? And sir has also prepared a beautiful presentation for all of you, and without being a hindrance between you and sir, I would request sir to please take over. And students, you can write your answers or questions on the chat in the chat box, and I would take it from there and also ask you to ask your questions from sir directly, right? So all yours.
Sure. So good morning to all of you, and it's always a pleasure, as far as I'm concerned, to talk to students. I am in the education business as well, so I get to talk to a lot of students. Interestingly, this is kind of a difficult topic to talk about, as much as it is very cliched in my mind, I think still it just happens to be one of the questions which is asked quite a bit. I have myself been part of the interview panels for my alma mater, which is I.M. Calcutta, and I've heard people asking these questions. People who are on the panel asking these questions, and students replying with various things, and I'll just try and through this course of my presentation, I'll try and at least make you aware of what the interview panel looks for in an answer to this question. Uh, Let me tell you first that there is no right or wrong answer to this question. So it's very much to each of us to own, and but the truth is, I mean, if you really put your hand on your heart and you say, look, why do I want to join an MBA school? Uh, the truth is that you believe that MBA schools will offer you great job packages after your education and a good growth path, etc. And this is really the truth. And when you say great packages, if you're talking about financial packages and stuff like that, and everybody wants to have a good starting salary, etc. And there's nothing wrong in that, right? However, having said that, unfortunately, a very direct answer like that, saying, "Look, oh, look, I want to earn a lot of money," is not something that is expected. So you really want to talk about the same thing, but in camouflage that around some of the other benefits that you see might accrue to you if you did an MBA. And look, I mean, I guess you guys are from diverse backgrounds, and you have some of you must be freshers, some of you may have experience in working in the corporate world, and so everybody's situation really might be different. So you really have to think through this. So before I tell you more about why I believe this whole program is very important, there are two ways that you should approach to answer this question. One is to talk about the importance of the program, which is what we will dwell on today. Why this program is important and why you believe it is going to benefit you. The other is very individual specific, which is to think about why you believe you are the right guy for the program, or right person for the program. So I'll not really dwell upon the second part because that is very, very individual. But I would more dwell upon the first part on why I believe this course is a great course to be part of. And and most of the things that I'll be talking about here is really thing which is what I have experienced having gone through a program like this. So it's a very, very personal experience, and some of that may be very generalized, and I'm sure a lot of my MBA batchmates would share something very similar. So one is that. So it's really that, and trust me, when I took my CAT interview, I really didn't have a great answer to this question, and I knew that this question will be asked, but still, and that's the problem with a lot of students have, which is that this question will be asked, but you still falter. So it's kind of an irony that look, this is a question you should ideally be very well prepared for, but when you are faced with that question, you kind of falter and you kind of beat around the bush and you look here and there, and that's where you give it up, because what people are looking for is how confident are you in answering this question, and have you done enough research about the program and why the program is suited to you. And if you've done that, and you have a very well rehearsed answer, I think you are okay. I mean, but you can't be searching for answers on that table. So having said that, let me go ahead and show you how I have benefited from this program. And like I said, this is all in retrospection. So this is all about how what the program has given me through the course in the last 25 years after having passed out from IIM Calcutta. So broadly, I would say there are 5 things that I still remember, and which in different points in time have helped me. One, and they kind of are linked, so I'll go in a specific order. One is the content of the program, right? So, and we'll talk about each of this in greater detail, but really, I think that there are very few education programs out there which can boast of as rich a content as an MBA course. So one is that. Then of course follows the content is the skills that you earn, right? You gain. So one is the knowledge part that you have, and then the skills that you acquire through the program. The third, of course, is a kind of head start and growth that you get. So, knowledge, skills, and career, right? How does it help you in your career? That's the third part. The fourth, which is very important, really, is the whole B school experience, and I'll talk through about that. What was that experience about, and why was it so special? And last but not least is the kind of network that you build, uh, having gone through a program like that in a good school. So these are really the five big takeaways for me from that program. And I will go through this kind of one by one. Let's start with content. Now, this is an eye test. This is the big chart, and this is lots of stuff. But the bottom line is that the richness of the content is in the diversity of the content. So I don't believe there is any other program which is as diverse in terms of the curriculum or the content than this program. I mean, I'm just kind of, put here some high level, streams like finance, economics, operations, HR, marketing, strategy, etc. And then within these, there are tons and tons of courses that you would do. I mean, in a 2-year program, packing so much of information is very rare, right? And there are lots of things uh, that well, ideally you could acquire a lot of this knowledge through Google. I mean, through online and through learning, etc. But this is too much to absorb, and they push you to absorb this in 2 years. So to that extent, it's a very rigorous and a very diverse program. I mean, pick any subject, pick finance for that matter. I mean, you could be a CA or you could be a commerce graduate, but the business aspect of finance, the way it is taught in MBA is very different. I mean, it ranges from you name what, right? It ranges from corporate governance, taxation, international finance, microfinance, investments, things like that, costing, pricing, etc. You may be an economics graduate, but the things that you would learn in both micro and macroeconomics in a program like this is quite rich. So you pick up any stream here, and you will go through such an in-depth business analysis of each of these streams, which is very rare. And remember, this whole program is very application oriented. So every time so any subject or anything that you pick, there is a direct application of that thing that you could see applying in your corporate jobs. So to that extent, I believe the amount of knowledge that I personally gained through this program was very special. I mean, and this and how it helped me further is something that I will describe more. Following the content and the curriculum part of it is of course the basic skills that this program gives you, right? So on the bottom, you will see three important things that this program pushes you to do. The first, it's decision-making skills, it's analytical skills, it's critical thinking skills. I mean, think about the CAT exam that you took, right? I mean, CAT exam is not really a test of intelligence, right? The questions, it's not something that you can't do, right? But still, it's difficult to score. And why is that? Because either you fall short of time, or your comprehension of the problem or the question is probably wrong. And this whole thing, so when you write a CAT exam, for example, right? I mean, very rarely, I don't know how it is today, by the way, but I remember the times when I took CAT. It's a difficult paper to finish. It's a very difficult paper to finish. I don't know how the thing is today. And what you expected to do is to pick the questions that you want to do. So that's the first step towards how you decide what questions to attempt and what not to attempt. And why would they have done that, right? I mean, why weren't they testing you for for an in-depth knowledge on a math problem like they do in an engineering or a JE kind of an exam type, right? It's different. It's more problem solving. It's more your ability to comprehend what's written there and come up very quickly with whether you want to even attempt it or you don't attempt it. So think about the way they are kind of shortlisting you for this program. The thing is that this program really enhances these three important abilities or skills that you have, which is decision making, analytical, and critical thinking. Okay, so that's one. The other is, this program is very cross industry and cross domain. We talked about domains there, like we talked about finance, we talked about marketing, we talked about strategy, we talked about HR, MIS, systems, whatever, right? It's all cross domain and then cross industry. So they don't really pick you or create, create an MBA for a particular industry. So your options after this program in terms of the skills that you've acquired is across industry and across domain. So the key message here is the skills are very transferable. So these skills are something that you can use anywhere, unlike a very specific let's say a law degree. I'm just picking a thing. I know there are lots of divisions in law now. I mean, there are very lots of specialization stuff like that, but still it is not as transferable as an MBA skill is. So the key here, like I said, as far as the curriculum is concerned, the key there was the diversity. The key from a skills perspective is really the transferability of the skill. You can work anywhere and any industry, etc. Right? So that's the key here. Let's move on to growth, right? And how does it help in your career? The first thing is it gives you a head start, no question asked. It gives you a head start. It's like, I mean, if I was to put a number, truly speaking, if I tell you, to me it was like almost 5 years of work packed into 2 years of MBA, right? I mean, it's a very intense program, right? So it's multiple years of work experience into a very tightly knit, 2 year kind of a package, right? And that gives you a head start. So why do corporates actually hire fresh MBAs? Because as opposed to, let's say, hiring a person with experience for 2 or 3 years, because clearly the kind of skills that as an MBA you would get, and the rigor through which you would go through that program is worth it, and that's why you actually get a head start, right? So there are a lot of corporations, there are a lot of companies where you would see that look, uh, if you are a non-MBA, you start at a certain level. If you're an MBA, you start at a different level, and people question that. I mean, and there are lots of debate around that. But there is a reason, and that reason is that there is this 2 year of very intense program, which has actually taken you through. So you see, like I said, it's a very application-oriented program. So within those 2 years, you would actually be doing a lot of practical stuff as well. For example, you would be doing a lot of research. You would be talking to a lot of companies, etc. And you have a fair and this whole program is so modeled around your observations and analysis of issues and presentation of those issues, that it's really speaking what I mean, I can tell you from my experience what I had not learned in 2 years of work that I had done after my engineering. I picked all those skills up in those 2 years of MBA, right? So it gives you really a head start. The other thing is it gives you upward mobility, and I'll substantiate that with an example, right? So you see, when so after passing out from IIM Calcutta, I joined IBM, right? And I was almost like a fresher. Of course, I had a 2 year work ex before IIM, but still, the job that I was hired for was more around sales and marketing, right? So which I didn't have an experience. I was a computer guy, I was a tech guy. I was done doing coding in Oracle, stuff like that at Tata Motors, but I was never into sales. I was never into I was into marketing, right? So that's the skill that I picked up, or the knowledge that I picked up while in college. So when I took up that job, and to start with, you are getting, so for example, you join any company like that, you're probably given a product to sell, and you're pretty much a sales guy. I mean, if you're in a sales job, right? And you need to get customers, blah blah blah, typical sales guy, right? Now, uh, the difference that I thought that I brought, as opposed to some of the other people who were non-MBAs and who were also in a similar job, was my ability to think beyond the silo, right? So it was not about selling a product, right? It was more around solving customer problems, right? So the whole approach to selling that I believe I brought to that team was a little different from maybe what somebody who had not gone through, was not fortunate enough to go through an education like that brought, right? So your whole ability to think business beyond a particular silo, gives you that upward mobility. So I kind of I was what I mean, I worked in a pure sales job for about 3 years, and I was made the head of that product for this country. I was the youngest youngest product head across IBM globally for a particular product. They never make a product head which is so young. I was maybe 20, 23, 24, something like that. And that whole thing was because I believe, and I attribute a lot of that to my education in MBA. So that's the upward mobility part. The other thing is longevity. You see, times change, things happen, right? Shit will hit the roof somewhere, sometime, right? Think about the dot com. It's old. You guys are the new millennium, but there was something called a dot com bust, which happened, right? And we all, I mean, at least I was, I was around when that happened. Now, a lot of companies went to Silicon Valley. There was this whole dot-com bubble, and there was a lot of internet startups and tech startups opening up and all that. And then the bust happened, and then people were out jobless, right? And I'm talking mostly about those Silicon Valley days, US and stuff like that. And people were jobless. There was a huge demand for jobs, and jobs weren't there, right? Under those circumstances, if you see, it was the MBAs who were able to find jobs first, or at least make a career shift. So that whole education, like I said, because it's so cross domain, cross industry, it's more around your analytical skills, your problem solving skills and stuff like that, that it kind of de-risks your growth. Right. So even if, let's say, an industry collapses, or that you're out of jobs, an MBA education will help you make career shifts, right? And forget bad times, even in good times. For example, if I look at myself, right? I've been in the tech industry ever since I graduated from IIM, right? And I always thought at some point I would probably want to move out of that industry and do something else. Right? And that probably, my whole education gig that I do right now is nothing to do with what I was doing in my corporate life, right? But I was able to transfer the skills that I had gained into running my own business. So it's very transferable. It's a future proof, according to me, a very future proof kind of a experience. And unlike a lot of other programs which are very specific, not to say they are good, they're not good, they are very good. I mean, there are specialized programs, there are people who go for that, people do PhDs, etc. But this kind of de-risks your growth, right? Kind of is more future proof in my mind. So that's really the head start and growth piece that I wanted to talk about. Following that, I'm going to talk about the whole B school experience, right? So one, I'll start with the rigor part, right? Let me tell you guys, it's one of the most rigorous programs that you would ever encounter. Right? It's 2 years, super packed. It's a very high powered, high charged, super packed program. Right? You would know what hit you once you enter that program. I mean, it's a big program. especially in good schools. I can tell you about my experience. Now, I'll make it a little light here. Uh, so I done my engineering. I'd done 2 years of work, which was going very well, and then I, for some reason, decided to do MBA. And I go and land up in this college in Calcutta, and I was 2 years out of 2 years out of education, really, right? So I wasn't in the mindset to start study again. And then I find here that it is so rigorous and it's so intense that after first semester, we had 4 semesters at that time, and after first semester, during the first semester, I just thought I can't make this. I just can't survive 2 years here, because the amount of rigor that it required, I had almost lost it. I said, where have I landed myself? इतने दिन पढ़ाई किया 4 साल, फिर I was in a job, it was comfortable, there were very good options and stuff like that, and I was earning money. Where the hell have I landed myself, right? And it just takes 200% of yours to be able to complete that program, especially in good schools, because it's very competitive. And I think that rigor is something that, some of you may have already gone through that rigor in your previous colleges. A lot of you may not have. To be honest with you, despite studying in a reasonably good engineering college, I had not gone through this amount of rigor. This was completely unseen. It was completely new to me. Right? So that's one thing. It just prepares you for the future. If you've done that program, let me tell you, you are wired to be a really, really hard worker, and go through any rigorous experience. That's one. The other is it just boosts your confidence. This whole program is very, very outward focused. So every time you learn something, you have to apply it, you have to present it, you have to address people, hundreds of people in front of you, stuff like that. It just changes your personality, right? It boosts your confidence to be able to. So today, when you go for an interview, so let me tell you this. Today, when you go for an interview, a CAT interview, or one of these B school interviews, right? You would go with certain level of confidence. I can guarantee you, if you've gone through a 2-year program and you went for an interview again, you'd be at a very different level of confidence. When you're talking to companies or talking to anybody for that matter. One of the things is because your knowledge is so wide at this point that you're very confident to talk about any subject. So because you've gone through that rigor, it just makes you that confident. Makes you that confident. So I guess that's the other experience that you will have in B schools. The third, remember, we are talking about good B schools. Maybe you talk 15, 20 B schools in this country, and you will actually be amidst the best minds. So you will have a lot of people like yourself, or even better, right, who would be competing with you in those 2 years. Right? So it makes you very competitive. This whole environment makes you very competitive, and also you learn a lot in the company of people who are actually pretty good. Right? So when I land up in IIM Calcutta and I look all around myself, right? So I don't know how it is today, but at least during my time, I would think that almost 40% of my batch were IITians, right? And I was not an IITian, and not that I
I guess just a minute. I'm so sorry. I muted. In fact, all of you. I would just unmute you, sir, because there was a lot of disturbance coming from the background, and request all of you to please keep yourself on mute. And if you have a question, we would. So just give me some time. Yes. So you can unmute yourself, because there was a lot of disturbance and I had to mute
no
all.
problem, no problem. Yeah. So I was talking about this whole company of very good people that you are in. Not only students, but of course the faculty and stuff like that. But
Right.
more so the students. So that's the other experience that some of us don't have when we go to a good school like that. Lastly, which wasn't so much true during my time, but I hear talking to students is pretty true now, is a lot of these big B schools across the world have become very, very big centers for innovation and incubation. Right? So let's say if you have an idea that you would want to pursue, these schools give you a lot of opportunity to pursue that. Not only it's not only that whole school thing, but also investors and people who are looking at these graduates. So it's also a great incubation hub. I've seen a lot of colleges on the tech side specifically. Unfortunately, my knowledge of colleges on the on liberal arts, etc., is not as much, so I wouldn't be able to comment. But at least on the tech side, I've seen some of these colleges have these incubation centers where people can try their ideas and can pursue that. Uh, but you see, a lot of more people are watching you if you are an MBA doing that. So I think it's also a great experience to be while in college and actually studying and be amongst these best minds and having such great profs to be able to validate, research, incubate an idea that you may have. So this whole B school experience, cannot be. I mean, I cannot say more. Nothing can be said more about this whole experience, the value of this experience. I mean, it is just very valuable and very enriching.
Right. So while you were at it, I mean, this entire journey was pretty mesmerizing and inspiring too. There have been a few questions. In fact, I would request students to please put up their queries here, because we've reached to a this part of the conversation where it is pretty much clear about that strengthens your aspiration for doing an MBA, right? And when Sir says that an MBA can fetch you, that can make a difference in your life, right? So my question here is, like, on behalf of all the students here, an MBA or a good B school. Now that's the difference. So is it just an MBA, or is it that experience of going to these the good B schools that we talk about that makes a difference?
Okay, so I'd say that's true across any program that you do, right? So here we're talking about MBA as a program,
Right.
and of course, my personal recommendation to everybody is pick a good school. So you don't want to do an MBA just because somebody is offering an MBA, right? I mean, you have to go through the course that school is offering, the teachers it has, the kind of development programs they do, the kind of students who actually land up there. Because see, I mean, I'm talking about. So I talked about content, right? The curriculum itself, right? I talked about the skills. So the skills part is something which is very difficult to gauge sitting outside today. Which school gives you most of such skills, right? But you look at the curriculum part, you look at this whole experience that I'm talking to you about, right? You have to identify the schools which are the best fit for you. My view would be, now I'm not very clued on to all the schools, MBA schools in India, but my guess would be maybe the top 20, top 15, top 20 schools is what my guess would be. I wouldn't, I personally wouldn't, if I was you, I personally wouldn't take up an MBA program in any school just because it's an MBA program. So, like, I would not do that for any other program as well. So it's no different, right? I mean, the school
Right.
makes a lot of difference,
Yes.
absolutely, even in terms of the opportunity it gives you, and there's a reason why big corporations or investors or this whole community likes a few schools. There's a reason for that, right? Because those students have proven themselves time and again. So I would say, in short, maybe top 15, 20 B schools. I mean,
Right.
I'm just, and that's just a guesswork. I really don't know,
Yeah.
because I know there are a lot of IMs now. When I did my program, we only had 4 IMs, A, B, C, and L. Uh, Now there are many more, I guess.
Yes.
And then of course there are other schools like XLRI, FMS, MDI, and I don't know. So I guess you are probably in a better position to answer that. But I would still not pick
Yes.
just the program without
Uh,
looking at the school.
yes. So the point here is that it has to have a reputation. That's the B school has to have a reputation. In fact, I have got questions on this. That Sahil asks a question here that an MBA is a desired program from a lower tier B school or a desired program from a better alternative, which again combines with a question from Shreyansh that if you're not able to make it to a good B school, but you have all the skill sets, so what would the corporate world need if you don't have that degree with you?
Okay, so so Chance, it's actually an interesting question because now think about it this way. I mean, just put yourself on the other side and think about it that look, you have 50 people, and you want to hire 10 out of those 50. Let's pick it
Mm.
this way, right? Uh, do you think really that a half an hour interview or a 1 hour interview or giving you some problem to solve is enough to actually know when you say I have all the skills is enough to test all your skills, right? It's kind of difficult. Not to
Yes.
say that you don't have the skills, maybe you do. It is just that it is just that one a good B school will enhance that, will hone that, right? There are lots of things that you probably so all of us have our own ways of solving problems.
Right.
The program, a good school, B school program, gives you a very, very analytical approach to solving problems. Some things that may not intuitively come to you if you have
Mm.
not gone through that program. I mean, we all know probably, I don't know how many of you, but we the think about decision making, right? There are ways to, so there are decision trees, and and today, if I look at, I just chanced to look at some curriculum in some B school. That was not an Indian B school, but whatever. And I just find that there are things. For example, when we would when we would analyze data during our times, right? So we would get a lot of data, and we would probably use some statistical tool like SPSS or whatever to kind of chop and dice that data, try and arrive at some meaningful sense from that data, right? Now if I look at a lot of these schools, I mean, they have much more. They have tied up with industry to with many more advanced tools to be able to do that same thing, right? And to do a much more deeper analysis of that data, right? Just an example. I mean, and you, if you may not have access to it. So today, while you may be very logical thinker and you may not have access to a lot of times these tools or some formal methodology with you to be able to attempt it, right? Not to say that you couldn't have done it if you were given access to it. The point is, a lot of times you don't even have access to it. So that's why a good B school makes sense, because they will give you all the tools that you need to be able to do this, right? Though the question is, do I do an MBA from a not very good school? My answer to that would be I would rather not.
Mm.
I would rather wait.
Wait.
If I mean, I think the MBA experience is great, but it's great when you talking about some good schools, and I would rather wait. Maybe a year, right? I mean, how does it matter? I mean, think about it. You guys, most of you guys will be very young. A year here and there doesn't really matter. I mean, like I told you, 2 years of MBA from a good school earns you almost like a 5-year head start, right? So what's there to worry? Why can't you take a chance
Right.
to happen to wait, right? Rather than going through a 2-year education, looking at it
Absolutely.
and having this expectation of the program, and then going there and finding out that's not what you signed up for.
Right.
So I would rather not rush up this whole thing just because I want to have an MBA tag. I wouldn't do that.
Also, I think this answers, there's a question from Tanya. And Tanya has put a very valid question there, that should an engineer, I would also replace the word engineer here, because it's not just about engineering, it's about other streams too, because we have students from commerce, from science, from arts, from different streams and faculties who are looking at an MBA, because MBA is open for all, right? So
Sure.
it's but then Tanya, since she's an engineer, so she's put up this question that, okay, if I don't have a very good CAT score, and so should I take up a job placement, or should I just go and join a B school? I think, Tanya, this entire thing has answered your query well, that if not a good CAT score this time, and if you think that you can wait and do better, then why not? So a year, like what sir said, that a year here, there doesn't matter, right? And I think, sir, you would agree to that too.
So I'll add a little bit to that, Tanya. The thing is that uh, usually, I mean, that's my view. Usually, uh, I would actually go for a job, right? Before I do an MBA, usually, right? I mean, I think that your ability to absorb this level of, like I said, diversity in content and things, your ability to absorb that, in my mind, marginally increases if you already have seen the corporate world.
Right.
So I mean, it absolutely makes sense to take up take up a job, spend 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, in that job before you actually go for an MBA education. To my mind, it probably might work better for you. Now, if you get a chance in a great B school this year as a fresher, of course, go for it, right? But if you don't, there's nothing lost, right? I mean, you in fact, you would gain, assimilate the knowledge or the skills that would be given to you in a good B school after you had probably 1, 2, or 3 years of experience in the industry. So you are in a good spot. You don't have to worry. If you don't have a good CAT score, you can find a job, go ahead and find one, and keep that as your later thing.
Right. So I would like to unmute Aaron. Aaron Agarwal, are you there? Because he's got it's a very intriguing question, and I would want him to even to only take that question up. Aaron, please switch on your video, and I'll unmute you. So out of all the questions, I found his question very interesting and pretty intriguing. Aaron Agarwal, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. If you can switch on your video so that sir can see you too.
I'm not.
Not in a condition? Okay, fine.
Okay.
Right. Go ahead with your question, please.
My question is that MBA teaches about how to smoothen and run the business, but it does not talk about how to found an entrepreneurial idea or startup
Right.
types.
Okay. In fact, yes, to add to that question, again, it would make even your question more easier. One, I would want Rajesh sir to please start with the difference between business and entrepreneurship. So say, so please, elucidate more on that too. Yeah.
So Aryan, actually, you've kind of asked a question a little bit earlier because then and so just have patience and we will specifically talk about that question.
Yes.
I have that question already in my mind, and it's part of one or two of my future slides. So after having gone through those slides, if you still have that question unanswered, we can talk about it more.
Yes.
But trust me, that specific question is answered in my future slides. So just bear for a few more minutes. Okay.
Right.
Okay, sir.
Right.
So I'll move on from here just so
Yeah.
that we finish the whole MBA part, and before we really jump on to. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm not able to move further.
Okay. You still the co-host?
Okay.
No, now you are.
Okay. Yeah. So my fifth pillar really around this whole thing was that whole network thing, right? So trust me, this is going to help you a lot later on. So So if I look at myself, right, having gone through a program like that and then pursuing different careers, and the kind of network that you build uh, through your alumni, through the professors, etc., is extremely powerful. And a network, a network is important. So when I was at your age, I didn't really I would say appreciate the importance of having a great network, right? It's just so important in any job that you do, or any venture that you form, or anything that you do. Think about it today. If I have a great network with people cross industry. I mean, there's no one industry I know people of, right? Not only cross industry, completely cross functional, right? So I know people in banks. I know people who work in banks, or in infrastructure, or in software, or it's a very, very diverse group. Investing community, stuff like that. It's a very diverse group of people that you network with, and that helps. you know Even if you want to have a meaningful discussion with people around some idea that you may have, stuff like that, you can't get a better set of people than these are probably the best set of people who you can bounce off your ideas with. And so that whole alumni network that an MBA school gives you, might be just your school, right? But the alumni networks are huge. And I can tell you that most good MBA schools have a fairly decent network, alumni network.
Right.
Right? Some of them are better, some of them are not as good. I mean, which is true with undergrad schools as well. But most of the good ones really have a decent network, right? And people go jump all over the place. So you'll find people shifting careers. You'll find people in various segments, various industries, various functions. And this whole network is very rich, right? So that's another important benefit. Now, of course, it depends on you how you use that network to your advantage or not. That's of course a very individual thing, right? But the fact is, it's there for you. And people do recognize. I mean, if you so let's talk about, for a moment, if we shift our focus from India, for example, right? If you really ask me, uh, pick Harvard, for example, right? If you really ask me, the only reason I would want to go to an Harvard and spend that kind of money is for this reason. That's the only reason I would prefer not to. I'm not saying Harvard doesn't give you great education. Of course, it's a great school. I mean, whether it's MBA, or whether it's law, whether it's science or whatever, right? It's a great school, right? But if the biggest thing that Harvard gives you is this network that they built for you,
Yes.
right? And so even if I had to spend if I had the resources to spend 5 times, 10 times the money that I would spend, 20 times the money that I would spend in another school, I would still pick Harvard over everybody else, right? So you can't undermine the importance of this network. In fact, so this is a 2018 report. It's a QS MBA survey, and QS. I don't know whether you guys are aware of QS rankings. They do rankings of colleges globally, right? So like, let's say, for example, if you want to just Google top MBA schools, or top engineering schools, or top liberal arts schools in the world, you're probably likely to hit QS ranking in one of those 4 or 5 different ranks that you get. And so this was one survey that they did. This is a 2018 report. I couldn't find a more recent one, but this I think is pretty good. 30% of applicants, and this is US, 30% of applicants actually cited this reason to be their reason for pursuing an MBA. So you can imagine the importance of this thing, right? So that kind of is my story about these 5 things that an MBA education gives you, or MBA experience gives you rather, which is valuable. And now you have to look at, guys, you have to see which of these, you know, seem likely or important to you, to be able to confidently say, well, these are the 2 things or 3 things that I really want to achieve, and hence I want to do this program. Right? So you have to pick your, and there could be others. So this was my top 5. Of course, there can be others. You can talk to a lot of people who have gone through an MBA experience. In fact, that's something I would encourage. You pick, come across, you find people who've had done an MBA program from a good school, maybe 5 years ago, or maybe 10 to 15 years ago, or maybe 20 years ago, stuff like that. Pick different people through different phases of their lives, but who have one common thing, which is that they have done an MBA program from a good B school. Talk to them about top 2 or 3 things that they believe they have got from that program. Right? That will help you solidify your thought as well. Right? And think about it. If this whole interview thing, I'm making it a little tactical here. This whole interview thing, the people are looking at one, like how confidently you answer something. Secondly, how well researched you are. So if you talk about things that you have heard from people who have gone through this experience, and this is what kind of intrigued you, or struck a chord with you, people appreciate that. People know that you've done some work before deciding what to do, right? So that's also one thing to show that your decision making is not because everybody wants to do an MBA, so I want to do an MBA. Right? uh, there's no way you can give that feeling or that impression to a guy sitting across the table, right? Because the world is doing MBA, because MBA pays great salaries. I want to do MBA. It's not the right answer. Right? So talk to people and talk and ask specific benefits that they have seen because of this program, and then compile that answer so that you are confidently say, look, this is what I've heard. You see, I have never gone through an MBA program. You can say that, right? I've not gone through the program. I'm still scouting for one. I'm still looking for what benefits the program will give me. And this is how I've arrived at the belief that it will benefit.
Yes.
So these are just pointers. These are not something I want you to just write down and kind of, these are pointers for you to explore more. This is what this program gave me as an individual. And likewise, there'll be something else with other people might tell you. So just compile those and think what works for you.
Yes, okay. And that would be a very genuine way to answer this question, because and then you have to put it a very subjective note. What matters to you more when you say that? What is that benefit that you'll be getting it? Okay, so just a little question here. So there are questions. I think Prahi Gupta has put up a question here. In fact, Prahi is just like representing one of those different streams of students. Like
Okay.
she's from a BTech biotech background. I'm sure there must be another student from a BCom background, another from a BBA, right? Then BTech. BTech also you have so many streams, like it can be mechanical, it can be electrical and communication, and computer science. So they all would have this one particular question that why this management program is for me. So she has this how to tackle this particular program about this particular. You are from this stream, one XYZ stream, and why do you want to continue with the MBA?
Okay.
And to add to this, there's another question that some student has put, that after this, he or she would want to follow or go for a fellowship, like a research work and all, because that particular student would want to go for teaching, in the academics. So if they would ask a question, why would want to do an MBA? So these are like little questions that the students would have in mind.
Sure, yeah. Sure. So I'll take the easier one first, which is the second part of the question, which is let's say if you've done a program and you want to go, so let's say if you've done a engineering degree or any other degree for that matter. So let's say I've done, let me pick something like a liberal art thing, right? So which is more difficult. So let's say, yeah, I've done, I'm a undergrad student of psychology. I'm just picking one subject, right? Why do I need to go for an MBA program? You don't have to. Okay, so there are good reasons how you will benefit, which I've kind of highlighted a few, how it's benefited me. You don't have to, right? I mean, if you believe and if you love psychology as a subject, right, and you believe that, look, I want to do research in psychology, or for example, I want to be a counselor or a psychiatrist or whatever. There are various fields of psychology, right? And sure enough, I mean, you should go for higher studies in that subject, and maybe a MS in or whatever, MS in psychology, masters in psychology, or a PhD for that matter. Right? So MBA. So there's no way. Please understand, there's no way I'm selling an MBA program here over some of the other programs. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if you don't want to get very deep into that subject, MBA is probably one of your best options, is all I'm saying. So the question about whether I should go deep into the subject that I have learned, that is an answer you have to give yourself, because if you like the subject and you believe that that subject is where your heart is, which there is no reason why you should go for an MBA. So I can't give you a cookie cutter answer to that question, because that's it's very, you actually really have to put your hand on heart and say, look guys, this is a subject I like math, right? I love maths, right? And I want to do some research in math, right? So the other day, I was listening to this guy, Indian guy in Stanford University, who is doing a research in math, right? So he's actually an associate prof or some prof in the university, and he is carrying out his research, right? The passion with which he talked about how he's picking up some of Ramanujam's work and kind of trying to apply it to a lot of very, very sophisticated stuff using mathematics, right? Of course, I mean, if that's the kind of thing you want to do, by all means, you should do it. There's no reason you should detract yourself from that path. But let's say if you believe, yes, I've done my math, right? I like the subject, but I want to go beyond pure mathematics, right? I want to go beyond, or I want to kind of assimilate knowledge on various other things, like what I gave you the example of an MBA curriculum, right? That's the knowledge I want to gain. I want to understand finance, right? I want to understand economics, right? I want to understand marketing, right? That's when I will choose an MBA. So yes, I mean, if somebody says, so you see, one thing is for sure, right? You can't mince your words. So let's say if I really ask you that, I'm sitting across the table, I really asked you a question. Look, you've done maths, right? Or you've done biotech or whatever, right? So what's wrong with it? Why don't you want to do to an MS? And you have to come up front very clean, saying, look, I did that. In fact, I mean, I'm not building any answer for you, please, right? But I would imagine that if you are not so much into the course that you have already studied, it is okay to say, look, I mean, when you were 18 years old or 19 years old, or 17 years old or whatever, when you went for your undergrad studies, right? How much did you know about that subject? Today, I mean, you get into engineering and ask yourself a question, right? When you went and entered engineering, right? Everybody wants to do computer science today, right? How many people end up doing computer science? First, why everybody wants to do computer science? Different subject, right? Let's not talk about it. But the fact is, when you did engineering, some of you probably never ended up with computer science. You probably ended up with some other program. You still embraced it. You still did it. How much did you know about that program before you entered that program? So it is okay to uncover or discover yourselves in those 4 years and say, look, I want to do something beyond this. So this is not the stream that I want to go deeper into, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because at the age of 18, it is very difficult for somebody to know clearly what your path is going to be moving forward. And unfortunately in India, because we embrace the British style of education, so we have a very cookie cutter approach to how our education should be. And that's but that's how it is here. There's no, I mean, you can't do anything about it, which is fine. But let's say why do you think in countries like US, you do an undergrad, you can get admission into an undergrad education in US with a very undeclared subject. You can say, I just want to do undergrad, right? And I will discover what I want to do in these 4 years, right? And then that gives you time to go through or take a lot of courses here and there and figure, look, this is what I like, right? And then you pursue that. Here, you never got that chance to do it. So let's be upfront about it. Well, I never got a chance to do this, right? Of course, I liked my subject. I did well in my subject, whatever, right? But this is not my calling. I don't believe this is my calling. And I'd like to explore more about these things which an MBA course will give you. It's fine. It's perfectly okay to answer that way. Perfectly okay. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I guess yes. And you've also covered, I think, Harman, you must be now happy because while I asked that question, you started it. Harman also put a question that, ma'am, I'm from a BSc mathematics. And I think you just very well answered that question. Also, to add more, a little more to this, we've been taught to be in our comfort zones, and we've been taught to be very, goal specific and specific to an extent that how much is going to pay us in future. And that is what the question here is, that Arin asked a question that, ma'am, if what if I go and go to a top B school, spend my money there, take my loan, then I don't get a job. That uncertainty, that is, I think it's with majority of students. 99% students would have that uncertainty that, is it a good deal or not. And I think I'll take that entire conversation to this one line that you mentioned. I've noted it down as, and it is like coming out of your comfort zone, and this is what you did. You were very well placed, and you said that you had your apprehensions of coming out of that job, and why should I just go back, start with my new thing. And that coming out of the comfort zone is the key thing. And so that's a little personal question I wanted to ask you. What inspired you to come out of your comfort zone, and what made you stick to it, and how did you do that?
So this is also very personal because it's again everybody's own thing. So
Right.
there's no good or bad here. The thing is, as a person, right? I mm, so I really, I'm kind of a person who wants to reboot after some years. So
Right.
I want to try something completely different, which is not what I have been doing. I just feel that once I have reached a particular level where I believe the job that I am doing is something which has become very very easy for me to do, or something that I can, I really don't need to think or really challenge myself a lot to do. Uh, that's the time I start thinking, what's the next thing for me. So it's a very
Mm.
personal thing. It's like rebooting myself and saying, look, I want to take off again, right? So I think that helps me stay young, right? So I think that it just helps me get into a very new world. I like to work with young people, stuff like that. So when I came back from US again for a very personal reason, I came back to India.
Mm.
I was heading IBM's outsourcing business. It's a big business, very very big business. Uh, and uh, and after some time, I felt that look. I've been in this so-called IT services industry for a long time, and I pretty much know most of the nuances of that. I've
Mm.
done different kinds of jobs within the industry. So even within the industry, there'll be various jobs, right? So I
Right.
was fortunate to do various kinds of jobs. So I kind of covered a fairly large spectrum of that industry as well. And now it was for me was look, is there something outside of this industry? That's number
Mm.
one. That was one. The other was, is there something I really do? I really want to, you know, follow the corporate stream and rise the corporate ladder as I was and stuff like that. Or is there something that I can do, more entrepreneurial, where probably my ability to impact people's life directly probably
Right.
will be higher, right? Somehow that whole idea of being able to impact people directly and
Mm.
hold myself more accountable for what I do, right,
Mm.
was something that for me was very high on my agenda. Right? Now
Mm.
it's not necessary it is for everybody and doesn't have to be. For me it was. I'll give you a very 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 mundane simple example, right? I mean, you are in a big job, you have thousands of people who report to you, through the line, and and uh, and some guy comes up and says, look, this particular policy that the company has, I'm just taking an example, right, doesn't seem to be right, and you think maybe there's a merit in what he's saying or she's
Mm.
saying, and maybe but there are reasons why things are, and you explain to people and stuff like that, right? Because that's how that whole company has been built, and that's how some
Mm.
policies are and stuff like that, right?
Right.
And beyond a point beyond a point, you just say, look, this is how it is,
Mm.
right?
True.
and because you may even if you're a CEO of a company, right, you're still answerable to the board and stuff like
absolutely.
that.
Yes. Yes.
No, so I was used to that environment, and I was very happy with that. When I did my own gig, and somebody came and asked me the same question, right? I cannot answer. This is how the way it is, right? The guy will say, "Look, you have to decide whether it is the way it is." So suddenly you feel that your accountability is so much more, right? And you're so directly impacting each and every individual in the organization. You may have 50 people, 20 people working in your organization, which is fine, as opposed to thousands of people who are working for you in a large organization. It's fine. But the level of impact that you make on those 20 employees of yours or 30 employees is far, far more, right?
Absolutely.
Your
That makes a
ability to
difference.
make an impact. So some of those things kind of excite me, and hence I did that. For a lot of people, it's okay to go through the corporate stuff and go right, and so, which is fine. So there's nothing right and wrong. It was just my own self.
So do you also think that this MBA degree from IIM Calcutta was your magic carpet when you thought of, you know?
Okay, so again, I think we are kind of moving towards this whole entrepreneurial thing, and so just like I said, bear with me. I will move on to the next slide,
Yes.
and a lot of this would be answered. Okay.
Absolutely. In fact, we are also having these questions coming up now.
Okay.
We're talking more on the entrepreneurial side. Wonderful.
Okay.
Arin and all, please pay attention now. This is going to
So,
answer a lot of questions of yours.
so it was I had not intended to make the entrepreneurship thing a bigger part of today's discussion. I would happy to do that sometime else. But however, I knew that this is something which is important, and hence I didn't want to leave it completely. And that's why you see I have a pre-made chart which says MBA and entrepreneurship, right? So I knew this is something that would come up. So to start with, let me say that MBA and entrepreneurship are, to me, very, very different things, right? So what are similarities, what are the disconnects, and all? We will maybe touch upon that a little bit. But to start with, they are two different things, right? Uh, Somebody asked that question, which I asked to hold off, is if I want to be an entrepreneur, why should I just do an MBA or things like that, right? So yes, they are different things. Right? Now, please understand that the skills or the reason you want to become an entrepreneur, or the basic personality that you need to become an entrepreneur, is not something that can be taught so easily, right? So no formal education program, right? So you may get programs about so I think there are some programs now which are specifically for entrepreneurship and stuff like that. So I'm guessing they have some more modules tuned to entrepreneurship. I don't see how it will be very different from an MBA program. That's my view, but I've not gone through in detail about each of these programs. But to me, there are certain things which you need to have in you, right, to be able to be a founder. I remember one question specifically was about the founding part. If I want to start a journey, does MBA help me? So I'll answer that question specifically. This was the question, right? Will MBA kickstart your entrepreneurial journey? Right. So here's my view, and I'm happy to take alternate views and have a little bit of a debate around this. But I will tell you what my view is, having gone through an MBA program, gone through a corporate life, and having started an entrepreneurial gig, right? So you see, let's talk about, to be an entrepreneur, what's the basic personality traits that I need, right? This is again completely my view. It's not pulled off some Google site or whatever. It's just my view. I think there are three things that you need to have in you, right? To be able to a an entrepreneurial journey, right? And if you don't have it, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. Let me tell you, 90% of people don't, right? So 95% of people don't. So you're not there's nothing to worry about if you don't have it. It's just that you should know that you should have these to be able to start an entrepreneurial journey. And what are those three things? I call it the three P's, right, of personality. One is you should have the passion to dream, right? So you think of an idea, you think of a product, right? You should be very passionate about it. You you have to put yourself as a consumer of whatever you are offering and see, look, does it solve your problem, right? Or will it solve many people's problem? And if you believe it does, right, then you have to be very passionate about it. You should like solving that problem. So, for example, when I got into the education segment, right, I knew there was a problem with the education system in India. I knew, right, and I knew something had to be done, right, and some and and I wanted that to be done. So I was passionate about it. I mean, and at that time, it was not about whether I would do and whether how much money I would earn. It was not about that. It was there is a need. It has to be done, and I will like doing it. That is all. That is all it was. Right, the passion in what you're going to do. So that's number one. Number two is the propensity to take risk. Right. So so remember, any entrepreneurial gig will be risky. If you take 2019 Forbes report, right? I don't think 2021 is out, but if you take 2019 Forbes report, 9 out of 10 startups fail. Now, they may fail for various reasons, right? So we'll not get into why they fail and what, right? But 9 out of 10 fail. So to that extent, your chance of succeeding is probably 1 out of 10, right? I mean, mota mota, if you do the math. Now, maybe you had something better than all those 9, and maybe your chance is 2 out of 10. But that's pretty much around what your chance to succeed is. So if you have the passion and you believe you will succeed, along with that, you have to have that propensity to take risk. Okay. When you become an entrepreneur, you're not talking about fat packages or salaries or stuff like that, right? So there is a financial risk, of course, right? So like somebody asked a question, right? I've done my BTech. Do I get into a job? Of course, if you get into a job, it will give you a monthly salary, whatever it is, whether it's less or it is more, but it will give you a salary. An entrepreneurial gig doesn't guarantee you any salary, right? And how long it will not guarantee you a salary is unknown, right? So it may be 1 year, it may be 6 months, it may be 1 year, it may be 2 years, maybe 3 years, right? Before you start to make money, right? So you should have the appetite to take that risk. Now, some people have, and some people don't. Okay, now please don't confuse this risk with the resources you have. So don't think that, look, I don't have the resource, I don't have the money, right? So what's the big deal, right? The thing is, a lot of people who have a lot of money also don't qualify in this parameter. They don't have the risk to take to use that money for entrepreneurial gain. So it is not only about how much money you have or you don't. It is about, even if you had it, would you risk it? That's the thing, right? So it's a big gamble. Let me tell you, it's a big gamble, and you have to be. No, don't get me wrong. I'm not promoting gambling here, but you have to be a kind of a gambler at heart. You have to be, right? So that's the second thing. The third thing is perseverance, right? You know, you have to learn to live with failures. Right? It is very, very likely that when you enter an entrepreneurial gig, it is more likely than it is not likely. Let me tell you, right? That you would go through situations where you believe you're seeing failure, and you should be able to live with that feeling and to bounce back because of that. So there'll be times where you may have to make a major change or course correction or stuff like that in what you're doing, right? And because it's not going anywhere, right? It's quite possible. It happens with the best people, right? But you should have that perseverance. So let's say I start something, I've put in all my mind and soul into it, and for 2 years it's not happening, and you can't stop if you really still have the passion and you think that this is going to work, right? And this perseverance also is not, it's something which is very innate. It is something how you are built. This is something that maybe you acquire over time or stuff like that. And so these are really the traits according to me. And then of course there are some others, but I was just picking up three, which is easy, top three things in my mind, going through my own experience, are things that you need to have as a personality to be able to get into this. MBA will not teach you any of these. So let's be clear. So MBA does not increase your propensity to risk. MBA will not create a passion to dream. MBA will not teach you how to live or how to learn from failures. It's not going to do that, right? So to be able to be a founder is different than from being able to run an enterprise. Please understand, right? So yes, you become a founder. Of course, you have to run it, but jumping into it, right? So it's like a bungee jump, right? After you have jumped off the cliff, right? What you should do to make sure you land safely? Yes, MBA will teach you, but to jump off the cliff is not something MBA will teach you, right? So jump. So if you're thinking you're doing an MBA because this will help you jump off the cliff, you're wrong. It's not going to happen, right? So what is there is conflict and harmony between MBA and entrepreneurship, right? So when I say conflict and harmony, what I mean is being an MBA, right? What are typical conflicts you will face to become an entrepreneur? So sometimes having done a good MBA program may actually not be the right thing, right? To jump off the cliff. And I'll tell you why, and the very logical reasons why, right? One is the opportunity cost of the risk is very high. So, for example, you're an MBA student, right? And you passed out from a good B school, right? You get a good job, you're earning a good salary. Now, 1 year later, your salary has increased. Now, 5 years later, your salary has doubled, right? Now you've been promoted, you've gone from, you're handling a particular region, now you're handling a country, right? Now you're handling not a country, you're handling a a bigger region, maybe Asia Pacific or whatever. Then, you're a global head of something, whatever, right? So you keep growing. At any point in time, when you say, look, I want to leave this and I want to start my gig, the first thing that you or your family will evaluate, and that is very, very natural, it's very natural for human beings to do that, right? Is look, if I leave this, what's the cost? What am I losing? Right? Now, the moment you think, what am I losing? Right? You would find that you would be losing a lot. And that stops you from taking that jump. Right? So that's a conflict, clearly a conflict. So a lot of MBAs, even though even though they may believe or others may believe that this person can do a great job of entrepreneurship, don't take that jump because the cost of taking that jump is very high. It's a cost to your family, financial, personal, whatever. It's very high. The second thing, which is very quite argued, okay, is MBA gives you kind of a sense of entitlement, right? So as an MBA, like I said, you get kind of a head start, right? You're already joining a company at a certain position, right? You start believing that, I'm entitled to all this. So it's a very natural thing for people. So if you get something, it's very natural for you to believe you're entitled to it, right? And that sense of entitlement doesn't go very well in an entrepreneurial gig, right? In an entrepreneur, you're not entitled to anything, right? You have to do all the dirty work yourself, right? So you know what, I'm in this company, and you know what, I have this huge amount of travel that I need to do, and you know what, I have an admin who would book my travel and my hotels, right? Sorry, in an entrepreneurial gig, you will find the cheapest flight to travel, you will find the cheapest hotel to live, right? You will do it yourself. You will know all these aggregating sites like make my trip or whatever, right? To find you the best deals, right? You will do that, right? Nobody's going to do that for you. That's just one example, right? Every small thing is something that you would have to do, and you have to leave that whole entitlement feeling aside, right? A lot of MBAs, people who are in good, and it's not about MBAs, people who are in good jobs, and I'm kind of correlating that to MBAs and all that, but people who are in jobs feel they have that sense of attachment, very difficult for them to come out of that. So that's the other thing where I feel there's a conflict when it comes to entrepreneurship. The third is really, and which is again a debate, right? Does an MBA education make you a good skilled person for startups or for ventures which are in growth phase? My personal take is, I think you are more suited to companies which are in a growth phase. It may be a startup, but not an early startup phase. So if you look at current scenario across the world, almost 60% of startups are hiring, 60 to 65% of startups hire MBAs, right? But if you break that startup journey into further, you dissect that, and if you look at it, that at what point do they hire MBAs? You will typically find that most of that 65% are actually for those starters which are in the growth phase. When you do a startup, you have a startup phase, early investment, series. So when you get funding, you have series A, series B, you have all that kind of stuff. But typically when you're a point inflection where you are going to take that hockey stick growth curve is when startups start hiring MBAs, right? Because they think that these guys will bring it the strategic vision and that growth thing. So my personal take is that MBA as an education is probably more suitable to work in an environment which is kind of where you have to take it on a growth phase, not when you are starting it from scratch. Right. So that's my personal take on it. And of course, one can debate till cows come home about this, but this is what I believe and my experience have been. It is a difficult. So again, to answer a previous question about, will it help me find a company? Will it help me start a company? It will not necessarily help you start a company, because for starting the company, you need certain traits which are not easily, you can't learn it in an MBA school.
Just an MBA cannot instill that.
Correct. However, having said that, there is a lot of harmony, right? So a good MBAs can be great at running as entrepreneurs, right? One is this whole thing about problem solving. Please remember, that's one thing you will do every time as an entrepreneur, all the time, right? You're always taking strategic calls. You're always trying to solve problems. You're finding new ways to solve problems. And that skill that you acquire just fits this brilliantly. So as an MBA, you're probably likely to succeed. Or let me say this, right? As an MBA, you are likely not to fail, right? Because of certain skills that you would have gotten. So one is the problem solving thing. The other is the cross-functional thing. Look, when you're starting a company, you don't have the luxury of getting experts in each areas. Right? So think about it. When fair degree of finance, fair degree of strategy, fair degree of operations, right? Fair degree of systems. Right? It helps. It really helps. So you're hitting a taxation issue. You're talking to a tax guy. You pretty much understand what he's talking, right? Not as much or to the level in which that particular person may be proficient, but you pretty much understand what's going on. Right? You know what a balance sheet looks like. You know what a company's performance looks like, right? If you're answerable to your board, you know how to present it. So that helps. That helps a lot, right? And then of course I talked about professional networking, and that helps a lot. I mean, in when you're running your own gig, you need to talk to people. You need people who would support your ideas or who at least validate your ideas, right? Or you need investors, right? Or this networking really helps. So there seems to be a fair degree of harmony, right, as an MBA, but there's a conflict as well, right? So this is a long story, but a very short answer to this is: look, it probably will not help you dive or take that plunge, right? But if you have taken that plunge, it will definitely help you run it. If I was to put it in a very short line.
Yes, I think we got to now move a little ahead of this. Are there further slides, sir, or can we just take a few questions?
Yeah, I can take questions now. Yeah.
Okay, you can take up questions. So there are questions like, again, I think you've already answered these questions. Like, if you have an idea, and there are children asking that if I have a great idea, so how would I, how will I know whether this idea is very feasible or doable? Which I think you very well answered in your whatever slides you've taken previously. You've answered that pretty well.
Right.
But if you just want to still put some light and throw some light on that, because if you have an idea and he wants to be an entrepreneur, and how would he know that idea is feasible or doable?
So two things here, right? One is, the idea itself has no legs, right? So the idea is only as good as people who want to embrace it. So you may think an idea is great, but the first thing you have to do is get that validated, right? So you have to look at what problem that idea is solving, that product or that service is solving, and really speaking, is that problem solving is purely in your head, or are you really, or are you've done your enough more research to say, well, this is a problem that people to embrace it. So I think like, so that's one part of an ideation process. You may have a good idea, I'm sure you do. I don't know how much effort you have made in validating it or talking to people. You see, at the end of the day, every gig will require money, right? And the money is most likely something that you'll obtain from somebody, right? And if I was to put money in your business, I need to be convinced your idea is great, right? And will run, right? So you just need to do that validation. I think there's no shortcuts to that.
Also, Rajiv sir, there's another question that has come up, that what's more preference given to? Is it given to the work experience in a B school, or is it given to a fresher? This is asked by Sujaika, and to add to this, like you were also hiring, you're a CEO of a company called Cognitil, which is doing fairly pretty well, based out of Gurgaon. You must be hiring these, MBAs too, and you must be also hiring these freshers, from college, just graduates out of college. What is the skill set that you're looking in a candidate when you hire somebody in your firm?
So is the question from a perspective of a company or from the perspective of a B school?
I
Are
would
you
say
saying that B
one,
schools
yes.
hire
So,
freshers? Sorry.
yes. So the question, so Jaika asked the question is like, she said, fresher or a experienced person, right?
Right.
Which is like in both, which can be in the company. Definitely, we say that MBAs would not have to face that much of issues when we talk about placements, because it's the college and the tag that matters more for them. So there's no question of you're fresher or what. But when you talk about, suppose if you were hiring, because you're also there and you've been in as a panel too, what would you look in for the skill sets that you would look in? Experience and all would count definitely, but then the skill sets that you're looking for in a candidate.
Just so that we don't miss that first part, which is about the B school hiring. I think B schools now prefer to take more of experienced candidates than freshers, I think. And there is, like I told you earlier, I've already alluded to it, there is a reason for that. And I think your assimilation of that whole knowledge and that whole curriculum is probably better as an experienced person, and hence logically people. So if I don't know what's the, and I'm guessing this must be all public data that let's say an I'm Ahmedabad or a Calcutta or whatever, or an XLR. I mean, you can look at their last few years records to see how many of the students were freshers versus experienced. But my take is, and my guess is, that the percentage of experienced people joining these campuses are probably increasing every year than freshers, right? So you have a better chance of making it if you have some work experience behind you. So that's the part from a B school perspective. Now let's come to the part which is from a company perspective, right? So you see, as companies, right, there are lots of things that we have in mind before we hire, right? And more specifically, it is about the job we are hiring for, right? So let's say if I have a job, so every time I'm hiring, I have to make that call about whether somebody who has done a similar job is more valuable to me, or an MBA who has not done this job, right? Usually, if the MBA is from a good B school, and I'm not hiring somebody where I need tons of experience. So for example, I'm not hiring somebody who needs 7, 8, 10 years of experience. And if I'm hiring somebody who has a 2-year experience or a 3-year experience versus an MBA from a good school, and if I can afford an MBA from a good school, I'd probably go for an MBA from a good school for 2 reasons, right? One, I believe, like I said, that whole program that that person has done gives a much wider perspective of business. That's number one. Number two is that the person comes with a very fresh approach. So a lot of times, especially in smaller companies, what happens is that when you take in people, you want people to come with a very fresh approach, right? You don't want people to be saying, look, this is what I used to do in my previous company, and hence I will do like this only, right? So your openness to come up with new things, because that is what smaller companies look for to grow, right? So that's the second reason why I prefer an MBA from a good school. Like I said, if I can afford more, right? I mean, so that's and so pretty much it's more well, in some cases where I need very specific skills, which I'm just thinking of what example I can give you, but specific skills, in which case I probably would want a much, for example, like we do digital content. So let me talk about my company. We do digital content, and we need people who are brilliant animators, right? Because we create very high quality digital learning content, right? Of course, I need a person who is because it's a very hard skill. I need a person specifically with that skill. So I need people who have worked on various animation tools and and all that, and you'll be able to create, or very creative, very right brain kind of a person, as opposed to a very left brain. So depending on the job, I would probably prefer that person. But yes, otherwise, uh, an MBA as opposed to a couple of years, 3 years of experienced person, my personal bias would be towards an MBA from a good school.
Right. And just to add here, like Sir said, that most of these B schools would prefer experienced students, candidates. You all must be aware of that, sir, and that there are particular criterias of different B schools of whether they would prefer. For example, if you talk about colleges like Bangalore, I'm Bangalore, or we talk about SPJN and all. It's totally on the profile, your work experience and all. But then we talk about the newer IIMs and other B schools where even the freshers are taken. So it's actually a mixed bag of things. Your skill sets is something that carries you to that level. And because few of the B schools would also want your completely fresh mind, so that they can put your thoughts and their completely unadulterated minds that you would have. Because there are also there are also always two sides of a thing. When you see a lot of experienced person, it's always very difficult for that person to even get molded in a new avatar. So the different B schools with different preferences and choices. So the people who are freshers, please don't get disappointed. You would get enough opportunities, and you would get enough opportunities too. So that's the secondary thing. Now, since we are just about to wind up this session, sir, I would want to just take up few more questions, which is like, one was very important. I think every session that we have is this question is complete. It's a permanent, a very perpetual kind of question there, that when it is asked about a specialization. So student who says, see, I'm from a biotech, I'm from BSc, I'm from BBA. I mean, I have no clue. I have no clue how to go about a specialization. When this thing is asked, what specialization would you want to do in MBA? Right. So,
Okay.
so that is one question which is like really difficult,
Okay.
and I would want you to
Yeah.
explain.
And all of it is a very difficult question to answer, right?
Yeah.
And if it and there is a reason why it is difficult, right? Like I said, you probably have not. Some of you may have, some of you may not have actually discovered yourself very well, right? So let's say if you believe that, or there is reason for you to believe, because there are some things that you may have done in your school life or your college life or whatever, that look, you have, you believe that you're a great salesperson, for example, right? You can sell, if you have reasons to believe, and there has to be some specific reasons to believe, right? That maybe you've done something like that. You were able to. A lot of people do some projects in colleges, schools, etc. And and they say, look, this is what I did. If you believe that that is, and you really enjoyed doing it, right? You can still go and say, look, I did something like this, but you know what? I'd like to learn more about this in a more formal way, and before I do that, that is one career that I see as for myself. I see myself as a sales career or a marketing career or stuff like that, right? Or, for example, you are really good with numbers, and you like accounting, and you want to do that stuff, and you say, look, what I think that I am more inclined towards a finance kind of a job. So that's the best you can do. If you are not, it is okay, because you can say, look, uh, to start with, I would want to take courses which are kind of cross-functional, cross-domain. But I would want to do that. I would want to see what or which of those courses excite me, right? Which is where, and that's the calling I will have at some point, right? It is okay to say that. So don't worry about this answer, or just be fidgety with it. If you have a specific reason to back yourself up, to say, look, I believe this is the reason. I'm not sure, but I believe, it's fine, right? To say that. If you don't beat around the bush, because the person will see through it, right?
Very true. Very true.
That's what it is. So it's okay. This is a difficult question. Everybody knows it's a difficult question. Why MBA is a difficult question? Everybody knows it's a difficult question, right? The reason it is difficult is because it's not because there's no real answer to that question, right? I mean, it's the same thing like why MBA. Right now you can say, okay, these are the 3-4 things which I have learned, and if it appeals to you, and you have to say why it appeals to you while you write your SOP. So I would actually want you to go and now write, okay, these are the 4-5 things that I heard from Rajiv. Now let me talk to 1 or 2 more people and figure what they earned, right? Now, what of those things kind of excite me, and I have to write this now, right? Go ahead and write it, right? And while writing, you will figure that, look, this is making convincing sense, this is not.
Also, that would lead you to your clarity of thoughts, and I guess that is something which is being looked upon in each answer that would be asked to you by the panel, that how much of clarity you have in your answers. So there is no right and wrong answer every time we say that, but how much of clarity and what is your approach towards it, that would actually that would that would only take you through the entire interview. So
and I'll just add to that one more thing. So please remember that if you actually knew for now, right? I mean, if you know, some people do, and then it's a great thing, right? But how many people can confidently say, without having gone through a program, like, what, I want to specialize in finance, and I don't think the other guy expects you to be so clear about what you want to do after 2 years, right? This is still an exploration phase, so this is fine. Don't worry about
it. Right. So do we have any other questions? If we have, please you can please put it up in the chat box, or maybe you can raise your hand so that I can unmute you and you can ask questions directly. If you have any questions. Okay, there was a very interesting question when I was going through the chat box, sir. There is this one girl, Simran, she's put up a question that, sir, what were the questions asked to you when you appeared for your I.I.M. Calcutta interview?
Oh God.
Do you remember them?
Yeah, so I kind of, I'm not sure whether it was an I.I.M. Cal interview, or I remember a few questions, and so typically one of the things which people want to know is what you are good at, right? So it could be anything. It doesn't have to be studies, or it doesn't have to be whatever, right? Or what you like to do, or what your passion is, or what your hobby is, and so like people say, what's your hobby? Well, I like playing cricket, right? So, which is fine. So have you done something about it, right? So try and stay away from saying something which is kind of more universal and you have not done much about it, right? So even if you've done something about it, it's fine, right? So in my case, I was fortunate, at least. No, I think it's for I.I.M. Cal itself. I was fortunate that they asked me this question, and And I said, look, I like to play bridge, right? So bridge is a card game, right? So I like to play bridge, and I'd also done, along with my other things, during my school I'd also learned classical music. So I said, look, I've learned that, and that's something which is a hobby. No longer, I'm not doing it professionally, but that's something that I like to do. So these are two things I answered, and you'll be surprised how deep they can go, right? So when you say anything about like that, right? They picked up on this bridge thing, and they said, look, uh, there was this one guy across the table. He actually draws. So I don't know how many of you have played card games, but a lot of you, I'm guessing, would have played some card game, if not bridge. So he actually drew the cards hand, for four people, that okay, तुमको ये पत्ते हैं, इसके पास ये है, इसके पास ये, इसके पास ये है. And bridge is a game where you have to bid how much you will make, and then you have to make it, right? So asked me, what's the bid? What's the best bid that can be done, right? And of course, it was a surprise to me, because I never expected somebody to remember a hand like that. But this guy seemed to know it, and he just put some hand. So the point I'm making is, and I happen to say the right bid or whatever, and I happen to play the game also, right, and they were quite impressed that I was able to do that, and I thought that that was a big reason I got selected. But the point I'm making is, if you open your mouth about something that you like to do, you better be sure that you really like it. Okay. If you don't have anything very strong enough to say that, you're best off avoiding it, or you're best off saying very upfront that, look, this is what I do as a pastime, and I would have loved to do more of it, or I would have loved to kind of pursue this. I have not been able to because of some reason or whatever, or some genuine reason because of which you have not pursued it, because each of you would have some thing in your mind or some hobby that you would have pursued at some point in life, but you couldn't continue for some reason, right? Say that, right? But if you say this is something I do, they can grill you on it.
Yes, yes. There was this student of ours, and I just want to share this experience here, because he was from this very well-known university of Uttarakhand, Pantnagar University, and he was this computer science and doing pretty well, and got a very good score. He went to his I'm Cal, I suppose, yes. And there and just recently he started reading about economics and all. And there he just came up very openly about that I have a deep interest in economics. And he was grilled, baked, roasted, and completely, and that's how he ruined it.
There's a way to camouflage that, right? There's a way to say that, look, this is something that I've picked up. So, and if I was him, I would be, look, you know what, I just started to pick up economics, and I'm kind of intrigued about it, and I'm kind of wanting to learn more about that subject. That answers two questions in one shot, right? I mean, one, you said that you've picked up a new thing, and you want to learn more about it, and an MBA course will have enough opportunities for you to learn it. So it kind of answers. So it's okay to say I'm picking up a new thing and I want to just pursue, and I kind of like it. I want to pursue. I've not done enough. I'm sorry, I'm not. That's okay.
So before we end, Arin has been waiting since a long time. Arin, I would like you to please unmute yourself, and if you are still in a presentable format, please switch on your video too, and put up your question. Arin, you've used this word ultra extrovert. I would want you to ask this question to Sir, like ultra extrovert. It's like a tongue twister. I can't even speak it, like ultra extrovert. Where did you read this word ultra extrovert? And please put up your question to Sir.
Sir, as you said, your interviews are asked to you, what is a good you in it? So my question is, what that is in super extrovert is in answer.
Okay, so he wants to say that can being extrovert be an answer to what you're good at?
No, so you're an extrovert, period. I mean, you're not good at being an extrovert, right? If you're saying you are an extrovert, it means that you like to open yourself to various people. You like meeting new people. You like to have a conversation. You don't have hesitation in talking to people. You like to discuss various subjects with people, which is fine. But that's not something you like. So So it's not what are you good at. I'm good at being an extrovert is not a great answer according to me, right? You can say this is what this is my personality, this is how I am. So maybe I'm good at talking about various subjects, right? I mean, it's a difficult thing to say though. I mean, you can get grilled brother, but maybe I'm good at doing this, but I'm good at being an extrovert is probably not a great answer.
You can be good at public relation, you can be good at making relationships, you can be good at networking.
Sales, you're an extrovert, you're probably a
Sales.
right guy for sales, right? So you can say, look, I like, because I'm an extrovert, because I have a personality like that, and because I have no qualms in talking to and approaching new people or approaching a topic, I think I'm good at sales. Somebody asks you, what makes you think you're good at sales? I mean, say, look, I mean, this is what I had done. So you have to think of what you have done and what. So every time you create an answer or you're thinking of an answer, right? Also try and see if there is some way to substantiate it. See, guys, this is key. You have to find a way to substantiate anything that you say. And not every time you may have a very solid example, right? So all to try and stick to cases where there is some example, even if it's not a very solid one. There is some experience in the past, even if it was when you were a ninth grader or a 10th grader or 12th grade, it's fine. But think of those things. This is all preparation to that interview. I'm just giving you some ways to kind of prepare yourself for it.
Right. So, students, any other question that you have, please you can raise your hand so that I can ask you to unmute. I'll ask you to unmute, or you can switch on your video, because we are very short of time. I think we requested sir to be present like just for like 1.5 hours, but I think we crossed that.
It's fine.
It's about to be 2 hours now. Though I'm totally like enjoying the conversation and the kind of insights that we're getting from a student's perspective. Yes, this have been very enriching. I must say this.
Thank you.
And I'm sure it is definitely. But look at the kind of questions they've been. Though I'm not picking up all the questions because they're one and the same. So we're just combining all of them to.
Sure.
Yeah. So okay. So we have few more questions that are coming up. How have you decided? Okay, startup. Let's have Rahul here. Rahul, let me have you here on board. Rahul, please unmute yourself and please switch on your video too. आपका जो है वो जो जैसे you started this cognitive, so that is like I think that's pretty inspiring for all these students here. आप LinkedIn पर भी sir की profile check कर सकते हैं. You can send him a request. And yes, Rahul, hello.
Hi, Rahul.
Go ahead with your question.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Sir, my question is that you talked about the alumni network that we get in the top B schools. So, sir, will it help in our startups more if
Yes.
we go through the MBA, as you tell that the network we get is awesome?
Yes.
So, will it help?
Yes. Rahul, surely it will, right? I mean, it just depends on how you leverage it, but it does. Because like I said, somebody asked a question like, I'm starting up something or I have an idea. How do I validate it? It's the best bunch of people you can validate or get your ideas validated. You don't have everybody, you don't need to have everybody on board with you in terms of whether they believe that idea is good or not, but you have a pretty good set of analytical people who would give you, yeah, that's one. The other is it helps a lot to have that kind of a connection, helps a lot even to secure funding for your enterprise, right? So this network definitely helps you get past some of those things that otherwise you could do, but this is just an aided benefit. You would struggle. I mean, raising funds for your company is a very big task, right? A full-fledged task by itself. You would find help there when you have a network like that.
Thank you, sir.
It does. You're welcome.
Yes, but rest of the questions, I think sir already have answered all these questions. Like Simran says about specific course after MBA. Sir already answered that question. What do you ask when you hire someone? That's again a question by Dipanshu, which I think you already answered that you're looking for a different. Dipanshu, understand that you have to first understand which position you are taking an interview of. So you have to see if sir very clearly has stated that if he's hiring someone for the digital content, or he should be creative. If he's hiring someone for the public relation, the person should be good to communicate and talk, and soft skills should be there, right? So all these things are there. Now I think we've got a lot of insight on why MBA, and I think that has shifted, must have shifted, and I'm sure have shifted your gaze to why not an MBA, right? So yes, I think that gives you a reason why an MBA, gives you answers. And like I said, I already took permission from sir that if in future when you'll have all these questions, because these special sessions are for your benefit, because आप लोग अभी जा रहे हो अपने एग्जाम इंटरव्यूज देने के लिए, you'll be writing your statement of purpose, you'll be appearing for these interviews. These sessions like these give you a clarity. They'll give you these pointers of that can be added in your SOPs and in your interview preparation. We would also have sir again on board whenever he has time, so that your other questions can be answered. So when he'll come and meet you next, you know what type of questions you need to put up to him, because Abhi, he has given you a little, not a little, I would say, too much of insight about that question, why MBA, what MBA colleges offer you, what good B schools give you. That's and entrepreneurship was actually an add-on to it, sir. That was a big, great bonus. And last question. Okay, Arun says interview CR why MBA? Why it? Okay, this is a very weird question. Arun is asking कि वो पूछते ही क्यों है why MBA?
Okay. So actually, Aaron, I mean, I wish I had a great answer to that question, because I think, why do they ask that, right? But I think to be fair, I think what they want to understand from you is do you have enough knowledge about what you are going to get into? So, or are you just taking a plunge because you're following a herd mentality? Right? So I think the question is more around have you really thought through this whole thing? I mean, are you just doing it because everybody does it?
Yes.
Right? So I think it is more to find how confident you are or how much research you have done about the program. And let me tell you, it is not only about an MBA, right? So for example, so in India, when you do undergrad, right, usually it's mostly some exams or your marks or whatever, based on which you get admission, right? If you apply to colleges for undergrad in the US, for example, right, for every time you apply, you have to write this SOP and why you want to do it and stuff like that, right? Again, the same reason. So just want to figure that, look, is there something in you, right, which this education or this program is going to enhance your personality or your skill set in some way or the other? Are you sure about it? What is it in you that you believe that will happen, right? So that's why the question, it is, nobody has, like I said, nobody has a definitive answer, after MBA I will join McKinsey and Company. Obviously it's a stupid answer. You can't say that, right? The thing is, that's the reason they ask. A lot of these questions that you will figure, not only about why MBA, but a lot of other questions that you will figure is to test, how are you thinking, or how have you arrived at that thinking? Have you done some work to arrive at that thinking? I think it's that. So that's the last thing I wanted to say before we end, is that try and be honest, because if you are honest, you can defend yourself. If you are dishonest, if you know that I've just fabricated this out of nowhere, right, you will be caught. So the only way to fabricate something and still not getting caught, I mean, if at all, is that you have rehearsed it so well, and you have given that answer to so many people and have got quizzed. So that is the only way to fudge an answer. And by the way, I'm not saying you should fudge an answer, right? But I'm saying, right, but otherwise, the easier thing to do is to be honest about it. If you don't know something, say I don't know, but you would like to know. Show your curiosity about the topic, right? You can flip back the question to the interviewer, right? So they just want to see how curious you are, how a logical thinker you are, how much work you have done before you have come to this table, that kind of stuff.
And this is a very legitimate question, Arun and other students, why an MBA? Because you go to any organization, they would ask you that question, that why this? Even if you're going for banking, you go for government services or these exams, they would ask you the similar questions, like why this particular department or why this particular you know, so you have to understand this. What are they also thinking, looking for, in a candidate is whether you are equipped with those ingredients to be in that position. Along with that, do you have this vision? कुछ तो एक है ना आपके दिमाग में, कुछ चीज चल रही है कि नहीं है, and you've worked on it well or not, right? Okay, so this can go on and on and on, sir. But I truly understand that we all have to, and you have to do a lot of other things which you must have kept it, because 2 hours taken out from a Sunday of a CEO of Cognitive would be, you know.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for your time, and I'm looking forward for another such good interaction with you. But we'll just take up some good questions next time, sir. And students, now you all know Rajiv Kabra, sir. You can put up your questions before we bring him for a session. This can be any time in future, and you can put up those questions there straight away.
Yeah. So
Thank you
thank
so
you very
much,
much.
all of
Thank you
you.
very much, Divya, and best wishes to all the aspirants. And like I said, don't stress too much about this. Make your answer, which you believe heart of heart, your answer you're honest about, and you will sail through this. So I know it's a very difficult one, but you know, best wishes to you. I'm sure you all will do well. Thank you.
Yes. So from the entire team of T.I.M.E, Dehradun, T.I.M.E Varanasi, T.I.M.E Chandigarh, and T.I.M.E Gwalior, all the students that we have here on board, thank you so much, and special thank you from Anupam Raghuvanshi. He just joined us. He was there throughout the session. He's the director Varanasi, T.I.M.E Varanasi. And,
Thanks, everyone.
yes, and hi, there he is. He himself is an I.M. grad.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So Anupam, wait, let me just unmute you. Yes. Yes, hello. We can't hear you.
I can't hear you, Anupam.
Yeah, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you.
Is it okay?
Yes,
Yeah,
perfect.
we can hear you now.
Okay. So what I was saying, the big boss is also here, and it is always a great delight to meet with people like you with his first-hand experience and exposure wrapped together in terms of what the youth is looking forward to. And this was a very interesting session, and I was actually a part of it for the entire session. And the slides that you have prepared, in fact, has augmented the whole reality which
Absolutely.
these students are looking forward to, not only in terms of joining, but exactly, even if you know the answer, you understand that you have prepared the answer, not that you have you've known the answer. So many a times it is not important that you know the answer, but many times what is important is the question should be yours. So I think the way you have realized these questions in the minds of these students is going to go a long way. And we have just started this program for them, and I think the stepping stone has been brilliant. So
Thank you.
from here, if they start drawing lines, in fact, I think there is something more creative that is going to come forward. In fact, and along with you, with your blessings, I would say we all
I'm
wish
sure.
wish them all the best, so
Yeah.
that all this contingent gets into an IM.
Yeah, of course.
And my elder brother Rajiv ji is also there. In fact,
Yes, so we have
usually speaks.
Rajiv sir also here. I have already unmuted him. I like to be in this position where I can.
Abra, thank you so much.
Thanks, Rajiv.
I loved it. In fact, I have been married, but Kabra, I think I was glued into your sessions, and especially the entrepreneurship. I think every word what you said was so very true.
Yeah, you've gone through that experience, so I'm guessing you
Yes.
might have been able to relate to it as
Correct.
well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, and stay safe, sir, and we'll connect soon. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, Anupam. Thank you, Rajiv, sir. Thank you, everyone. Have a great Sunday and stay safe.